Hey folks, this is the Views Express Live right here, starting an hour early just for this week. Yeah, I got some things coming up. It's going to be, well, let's just say quite interesting going into Halloween. And yeah, there's a lot of things that go to freeamericaradio.us or Free America Radio on Facebook. Check things out. Excuse me. From France24.com, Hungarian protesters urge PM Orban to scrap internet tax. From Chrisanne Hall, chrisannehall.com, do we need a Boston Tea Party? Legislation without representation, mandated purchases, warrantless searches and seizures, denial of due process. This is the foundation for the Boston Tea Party, not just a report from the New York Times. Okay. Damn it. Got something going on here and I just can't get rid of it. A lot of things happening. A lot of things going on. Lots of things that you need to be aware of. Offthegridnews.com, why every gun control law is unconstitutional. I've been saying that for months, folks. Offthegridnews.com. From offthegridnews.com again, like it or not, Comcast is turning your home into a public Wi-Fi hotspot. Also from thearcanefront.com, Obstruction of Justice, the MENA Connection. There's a documentary video that you should see. Andrew Krieg was on the Pete Santilli Show, episode 824, the secretive elite that guide our government's leaders. Also, WashingtonTimes.com had Vladimir Putin emboldened by weak U.S. response to Russian aggression. In other words, yeah, if we don't react. Now, let me say this. Was that propaganda? Don't know, do we? I just know that I would like to meet Vladimir Putin. I would like to talk with him. And there's two questions I want to ask him, amongst all kinds of other things as well. But two questions, very simple, very direct. And here's one question that I would ask him. From his point of view, when he looks at peace, freedom, security, and liberty for people, and he understands that that is needed for growth of a society and a culture, why is he running a dictatorship? That's the number one question I would ask him. The second question I would ask him is, under the previous regime, when he was in the KGB, at what point did the president of Russia decide to just lie to the American people? So not only am I getting a question posed to him while he was behind the scenes, now he's in the front. Now let's see how he answers those questions. And this is coming from my own personal American U.S. observation. So I don't live in Russia. Okay, so I don't know. But I'm just asking him. I would like to ask him if I were to ever meet him. He seems like a very intelligent man. You don't get into KGB being stupid, that's for sure. But, just something to ask. Hey, folks. Going to take a little break. FreeAmericaRadio.us is the website. FreeAmericaRadio@USA.com. FreeAmericaRadio@USA.com is the email address. And I'll be back right after this.
October 29th, 30th, and 31st from Eastland Radio, Repertory Theater, and New West Theater, a Halloween special. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Eastland Radio Repertory Theater presents a Halloween special just for you. You can also go to eastlandradiotheater.weebly.com.
Hey there, I'm Big Tiny. I'm the host of Big Tiny's Oldies and More. And we're playing music that you just love to hear from the 50s to the 90s. So check us out Monday through Friday and see what we're playing right here on Spreaker.com.
Listen to Just BK on the Shake and Wake Radio Network. ShakeandWakeRadio.com.
Sharing the truth one fact at a time. This is the Free America Radio Network.
Don't wait until another natural or man-made disaster strikes. Have at least 72 hours of emergency gear near you at all times, and that includes food. Get your emergency food supply today. Go to freeamericaradio.us and at the top of the page, click on the emergency food supply link. Help your family by purchasing as much emergency food supply as you need. You'll be helping out your family and Free America Radio Network. Thank you. Hey, folks, how you doing? This is the Views Express Live right here, 27th of October, 2014. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. Go to freeamericaradio.us for more information, or if you're there already, cruise around the site. Well, if you do that, then the show shuts off for a while. So open up another tab and cruise around the site. So there you go. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or if you disagree with me, that's okay. That's fine. You can disagree with me. Just show me why. Email me at freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. Yeah, I said I'd like to meet Vladimir Putin. So what? Big deal. He seems to be a fascinating individual. From France24.com, you can go to Free America Radio on Facebook and follow along if you would like. From France24.com, Hungarian protesters urge PM Orban to scrap internet tax. Budapest, American Free Press, also has this article. More than 10,000 people marched in Budapest on Sunday to demand the scrapping of a proposed tax on the internet usage that critics of Prime Minister Viktor Orban call his latest anti-democratic measure. Quote, "There will be no internet tax. We will block it," unquote. Organizer Balise Gulias told the crowd to cheers. Quote, "If the tax is not scrapped within 48 hours, we will be back again," unquote. The crowd held smartphone torches aloft outside the economy ministry in an echo of recent pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong, and held signs with slogans such as "Free Wi-Fi, free internet, free Hungary," unquote. Announcing the levy last Tuesday, Economy Minister Mihaly Vargas said the tax 150 florins, which is 0.50 euros and 61 cents in American money, on each transferred gigabyte of data was needed to help shore up the 2015 budget of one of the EU's most indebted nations. He also said the tax was fair because it was a shift away from phone lines and to the internet. Orban has been accused of flirting with authoritarianism, and organizers told AFP they believe the tax was aimed at restricting government critics who mainly use online media. In other words, censorship. So let me say this, folks. Okay, let me put it to you this way. If this country, if Hungary is so in debt, why don't they just take a page out of the book from Iceland? Go in, have the military or have the police, the law enforcement, go in and take these leaders out and arrest them and throw them in jail. Tell the bankers, get the hell out. We don't need you. Okay? There's three things. No matter what country you live in, there are three things you need for free. It used to be two, but now there's three. Three things. Water, heat, and when it comes to technology, the internet. Now, I know the ISPs and your cable companies want to make money. I know that. But have you looked at the taxes on these cable bills? No wonder people are leaving. Okay? Just on your cable television side of it, not the internet. Just look at that side of it. So they want to levy a tax against people using internet in Hungary at 61 cents American dollars, or 61 cents in American money. That's freaking ridiculous. It'll shore up the 2015 budget. Well, don't spend all your damn money on stupid crap, you idiots. I would even look at the people and say, you allowed this. You can make changes immediately, today. I don't know if they will or not, but they can. The Prime Minister also said that the tax was fair because it was a shift away from phone lines and to the internet. Orban has been accused of flirting with authoritarianism. Sounds like somebody in the U.S. And the organizers told AFP they believe the tax was aimed at restricting government critics who mainly use online media. In other words, internet censorship. In other words, tax them and put them out of business. So nobody has this. It's Chinese-style internet access, folks. You can't get it unless you have a license, and if you talk bad about the government, they'll shut you down. This is straight out of 1984. Happy Monday, folks. Continuing, others are concerned it will hurt small business and make it harder for people, practically and particularly in poor areas, to access information and educational material. That's why internet access has to be free, folks. Period. Has to be free. Quote, "This is a backward idea when most countries are making it easier for people to access the internet," unquote. Judith Nagy-Korsov, 55, told AFP. The tax has also triggered alarm in Brussels. Nelly Kroes, the EU's digital chief, tweeted that it was, quote, "a shame for users and a shame for the Hungarian government," unquote. Orban's Fidesz party, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm not Hungary. I'm not Hungarian. The party later proposed capping the monthly payment at 700 forints, which is $3 in American money, or 2.3 euros, for consumers, and 5,000 forints for businesses. But the move has failed to calm anger. "Quote unquote, Orban get lost," chanted the crowd as it marched down the main boulevard of the capital after the rally. The powerful Orban, 51, re-elected with a second consecutive two-thirds majority in April, has faced unusual pressure, wonder why, in recent days after the United States issued entry bans on several country officials over suspected corruption. Suspected corruption? If it was only suspected, they would allow them to come in. Do you not think? The top U.S. diplomat to Budapest warned Friday that quote-unquote negative trends, such as a weakening of the rule of law and the intimidation of civil society, had, quote, rapidly taken hold, unquote, in Hungary. Among the protesters Sunday, several people held EU and U.S. flags as well as signs reading Mafia Government. And pretty much, okay, the, people in the EU have to wake up. Actually, people all over the world have to wake up. Okay? The one thing that America has going for it, one thing the United States has going for it, is we may disagree with the government, and we do because they're a bunch of criminals. We may disagree with our states because they have state laws that suppress us and keep us from, becoming a successful entrepreneur. But here's one thing that we can agree on. We have the internet. We can say, well, I can do a show like this here on Spreaker.com or on my, website or on, Crazy Wolf Media or whatever, and we have this platform. You know what platform these citizens in Hungary have in the capital there? The streets. And that's the difference between them and us. Remember the riots in Tunisia last year? Remember Egypt had an uprising? Remember all these countries around the world, the people got out in the streets. And I was saying for months, why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? You know why? Because people don't want to be inconvenienced. People don't want to be, seen as some rabble-rouser. People don't want to go to jail. People don't want to stir the pot because they're afraid. Bottom line, folks, you guys don't have any balls. No, I said it. What are you going to do about it? You guys don't have balls, backbone, or, anything. Because, we go out every weekend, right? I'm out almost every weekend, and we see people. We don't see protests here. I'm broadcasting live from the biggest little city in the world, Reno, Nevada. I hardly see anybody out in the streets. Why? Because of the restrictions that are placed upon the people of this city. Okay? Later on, when I get some time, I'll put some pictures up on the website at freeamericaradio.us, and I'll show you. I'll write a blog about it, as a matter of fact. And I'll show you why there are restrictions, and I really would encourage you to write me back and show me what's happening in your area. Specifically, signs that say free speech area. That right there is a complete and utter violation of our First Amendment right. Period. Period. Okay? And as you can hear, I'm typing because I'm looking for something. And I'm going to email. How much time do I have here? Oh, good. I've got plenty of time. I'm going to email the mayor of Sparks, Nevada, which is like a little suburb of Reno, and I'm going to ask him why. And I'm going to tell him this is a violation of our First Amendment right. Okay? I've got the email in, and I'm putting in the subject box, and I'm going to do this. Why do we have, I use the backspace more than I use any other key. Why do we have free speech area? Yeah. Why do we have a number of areas designated as free speech area? That is a total and absolute violation of our First Amendment. I would like a reply. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne S. Pierce, Free America Radio Network. There we go. And email is sent. See? Live on air, you get me send an email. You get to hear me send an email to Sparks, Nevada mayor. Now, Reno mayor email. I forgot to look that up while I was there. There it is. I am going to send him the same thing, but I'm not going to write the whole thing out. Holy crap. Just did that. Okay. Now I got to go find... Now I got to go find it. Shoot. That happens. You know. Oh, went up under my other email, my personal email. That's all right. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. As long as they know who I am, what are they going to do? Come SWAT team me? Free speech area. Boom. And there we go. Mail sent. I don't know. I forgot to turn my phone down. You see, live radio is absolutely fantastic because you get all these things happening here. Two things. And I wanted to talk about this in the first hour, but I got on this other thing. Two things. When I come back from the break, I'll talk about these. And it is what it is, folks. We cannot get around the fact that we live in a tyranny. That's number one. We cannot get around the fact we live in a tyranny. And the thing is that we can stop it. The other thing is real simple, and it's a question basically to you, is what do we replace it with? Okay? And and I know several people who have some fabulous ideas. Okay? But as the old adage goes, it works well on paper. Socialism, fascism, Marxism, communism does not work without pressure from the top. I have been accused, I shouldn't even say accused. It has been said of me that I am an anarchist. I am not an anarchist. Unless you want to get corruption out of government, then call me an anarchist. But I am not an anarchist. I'm a realist. I use common sense. I try to find ways to separate the powers of government into common sense areas with practical, sustainable, viable laws that do what the Constitution enables us to do. Okay? Want to call me an anarchist? Go ahead and call me an anarchist, but doesn't change the fact that we have a corrupt government. Doesn't change the fact that I believe that this government needs, and I'm going to say this, probably piss off a few people, it needs to collapse. And we need to rebuild it of, by, and for the people. And if we can't do that, then we've lost. Okay? So when I get back from the break here in a few, I'll talk about the specifics of the tyranny in which we live. Okay? And it is it is something that we have to really, really pay attention to, because if we allow it to continue the way that it is, we're not going to... Folks, you're going to walk out one day to get in your car to go to work, and you're not going to recognize anything that's around you. Okay? You're going to go to work, and it's going to be totally different. Your boss is going to call you in and say, well, we've made changes because we were told to make changes. Well, who told you? Can't tell you that, but we're supposed to make changes, and here's what you're going to do. What? Unless that's already happened in your place of employment, then something's definitely wrong. But I'm going to talk about what a tyranny is specifically. And I'm going to talk about what a government is. Okay? Now, I don't want to get into it now. I have some thoughts, but let me go to break and come back, and we'll get into some other things and talk about some other things, and yeah, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. It's the bottom of the hour break. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and even if you disagree with me, that's all right. Just show me why. freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. If you want to sponsor the show or donate to the show or get your emergency food supply, then go to freeamericaradio.us for all that information. Cruise around the site if you're not already there and check it out. I'll be back right after this.
Sarasota's home for R&B and soul. The Razor Blade Express with Dave the Rave.
And will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Ah, damn politicians. My mother always told me this country would be screwed if the liberals had their way. The only sanity I get is when I listen to Jeff Wagner on The Conservative Voice, only on the Conservative Radio Network.
Eastland Radio Repertory Theater is looking for you. Are you a voice actor? Do you want to hone your abilities? Please send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Theater at USA.com. We are currently looking for voice actors to fill certain character roles in an ongoing radio play in development. Please send your audition clips to Eastland Radio Theater at USA.com.
October 29th, 30th, and 31st from Eastland Radio Repertory Theater and New West Theater, a Halloween special. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Eastland Radio Repertory Theater presents a Halloween special just for you. You can also go to eastlandradiotheater.weebly.com.
Hey, there I am, folks, right there. It helps to press the right button, yeah. It does. Button, who's got the button? Certainly not that one, huh? Anyway. Tyranny. Let's talk about that. A tyranny is an arbitrary or unrestrained exercise of power, despotic abuse of authority. The government or rule of a tyrant or absolute ruler, a state ruled by a tyrant or absolute ruler, oppressive or unjustly severe government on the part of any ruler, undue severity or harshness, a cruel or harsh act or proceeding, an arbitrary, oppressive or tyrannical action. The word tyranny in its origins in history is the late 14th century, quote, cruel and unjust use of power, unquote, from the Old French tyrannie. 13th century, from late Latin tyrannia, or tyranny, from Greek tyrannia, rule of a tyrant, or tyrannos, or master, see tyrant. That's at dictionary.com, folks. You can go look that up there. As far as I know, and as far as I can see, and as far as others can see, we live in a tyranny. Now, hold on. Hold on to your horses. Some people would say that the rules and regulations that we have in our cities that are there to, they say, they're there to protect you. No, they're not. There are rules and regulations such as stopping at a stoplight or a stop sign. There are rules and regulations that say it is against the law or policies or ordinance of that city to do thus and such. Okay. Criminals do that all the time. Kids steal candy from stores, yada, yada, yada. Certain common sense rules and policies and laws that as we grow, we learn to understand. Then, there are the rules and regulations and such that suppress us and bring us to a point of subjugation. There's those rules and regulations and policies that are in place that put us in in a position of oppression, or where we are oppressed, as if I cannot do anything without feeling as if I can't do anything. Okay? So, are you on the same page with me here? Certain rules and regulations and laws are good. The vast majority of them in your city are not, or in your state are not. I'll give you a prime example. New York and California. Go look at their state laws pertaining to personal protection, their city ordinances. I grew up in Stockton, California, so I can tell you right now that is one of the most, tyrannical cities that I have ever been to in California. Okay. Although I might be biased because I was born and raised there, but when you leave and come back, and this is any city, you see the changes and you can feel it. Okay? And you can drive around the neighborhoods and see how bad it truly is, or even feel it in the air. Okay? And when you have those undesirables, as my grandmother used to call them, in your neighborhood or anywhere, it becomes a cancer. So the laws and the rules and the regulations are not for the law-abiding citizens so much as it is for the criminals, which in turn then stops the law-abiding citizen from protecting themselves in any way, shape, or form that they see fit. In other words, when you believe that you're doing the right thing, but the laws, rules, and regulations tell you that, oh, you can't do that because this other person or group over here is going to be affected, well, then what do? What you do as a society and as a culture is you go and make the changes as a group of people to get rid of those rules, regulations, and such. But the rules and regulations are there to help. They're there, and you just got to follow along, and you don't want to rock the boat. No, you're a wimpy, whiny-ass little bastard if that's what you want to do, and all you're going to do is get rolled over by those people in control. That's just the way it is. I grew up in Stockton, California. I've walked the streets of Stockton, California. I know where, let's just say, the undesirables hang out. I know where to stay away from. But I know overall that the state government, controlled by Jerry Brown, is in direct violation of people's constitutional rights, period. Okay? So the rules and regulations in the cities and the local areas are there to protect the law-abiding citizens, but the rules and regulations and laws of the state that govern those cities are suppressing the law-abiding citizens so they can't protect themselves, meaning that the criminals, who are the dumbest people on the face of this planet, will do everything they can to break the law to subjugate you through terror to keep you in your house so you won't protect yourself. That's a long way of saying that any state that legislates any laws that suppresses the vast majority of the people, or I should say the populace of that state, is in direct violation of the Constitution prior to 1871. Period. That's it. Do yourself a favor, and if you're listening to this in the U.S., read your state's Constitution and highlight the areas you know for sure are in violation of the federal Constitution, the document in Washington, D.C., that protects our freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion. Highlight them. And then copy that out and send that to your governor and say, I'm holding you accountable for this because you're in violation of my constitutional rights. I challenge you to do that. You probably won't, but I challenge you to do that. You up for a challenge? You heard me just before the break. I emailed the mayor of Sparks and the mayor of Reno, Nevada, asking them about the free speech area and telling them it's a violation of our constitutional right, our First Amendment. So don't tell me I don't do anything. What are you going to do? I just did it. Got something to say about it? Free America Radio at USA.com. Free America Radio at USA.com. I've spent way too many years watching people take advantage of somebody else or other people. I've spent way too many years being told what to do, when to do it, why to do it, and how to do it. And I've spent too many years watching people tell me that I have to allow the system to work. Have you heard that phrase? Oh, you have to allow the system to work. Really? No, you don't. Because the government of, by, and for the people is no more. The government from Washington, D.C., trickling down to the other states, is for the elites. Oh, by the way, Washington, D.C. is a corporation. It's a city-state unto itself. And guess what? The state you live in the U.S., is a sub-company, an affiliate, a franchise. It's a corporation. The Organic Act of 1871, go take a look at it. I don't want to hear any more of your BS saying, you're just a conspiracy theorist. You don't know anything. Who's the one with all the information packed away in trunks and coming up out of memory for the last 35 plus years? Certainly not you. Okay? Oh, and by the way, just a little FYI, folks. I don't like trolls. Never have, never will. As the Spreaker site says for the network, that if you're trolling, you're going, because I'm going to ban your ass. That's the way it's going to be. Don't like it? Don't listen. Now, I know I'm harsh. I had somebody ask me that. Why are you so harsh? Why do you always tell people what to do? Why do you do this? I'm just stating fact. If somebody, let me switch this around. If somebody came to you and said, hey, I heard you say this. Did you know that you were wrong because of this, this, and this? If somebody came to you and said that, or said that you were wrong without showing you this, this, and this, what would you do? It's your obligation to defend what you believe, because you have the confidence to know that what you believe is true. Okay? That's a deep thing. I know. Stick on your thinking cap and screw it tight onto your head, because you've got to understand that this government doesn't give a rip about you at all. They never have, and they never will. Okay? They just don't care. And I got to tell you, from what I've seen, if you ever had anything to say against what they do to you, they'll SWAT team your ass and they wouldn't care. Oh, by the way, I don't remember what state it was in, but I read this headline. I think it's on Free America Radio on Facebook. Let me scroll on down here and take a look. Okay. I doubt it. I can't find it right now. But it might be on my personal page. But it really says a lot about where a person, where their mindset is. Okay? And I know for a fact that when a person has a mindset that is, well, how can I put this? When they overlook the simplest things, okay? It's only because they don't accept it. I can't find the headline, but you may want to look this up. The IRS went into they went into this woman's business, a business that she owned or owns, went into this business. Well, not into the business per se, went into her bank account and took out $33,000. They confiscated her bank account. Why? Because she went to the bank and deposited $10,000 or less than $10,000. And the IRS was a little pissed off about that, because they thought she was trying to skirt some policies and some rules and regulations and all that. And she wasn't. But now the IRS is completely and utterly out of control. They don't really care. They never have. They never will. So if you deposit less than $10,000 in your bank account, or more than $10,000 in your bank account, they're going to come SWAT team you because it's suspicious. Okay? I challenge everybody to go to your bank and ask about their policies. What if I had an insurance policy that paid off, a relative died or whatever, and or you get Social Security disability and you get the back pay and it's over $20,000. If I deposited that into the bank, are you going to send the SWAT team or the IRS to my door? When I can prove to you that it's not from some criminal activity. So I challenge you to go talk to your bank. Because our government is completely and utterly out of control. You know what government means? It's a noun. According to dictionary.com, the political direction and control exercised over the actions of members, citizens, or inhabitants of a communities, societies, and states, direction of the affairs of a state, community, etc., political administration. The form or system of rule by which a state, community, etc. is governed. The governing body of persons in a state, community, etc. administration. A branch or service of the supreme authority of the state or nation, taken as representing the whole. A, the particular group of persons forming the cabinet of any given time. B, the parliament along with that cabinet. Direction, control, management, a district governed or province. It's also an adverb. It's also an adjective. Can be an adjective. So, you want one party to rule all of it? Or do you want the Independent Libertarian Party to be a part of this political process so that we can separate the branches of government back to where they need to be to hold them accountable under the checks and balances that we should have. Because I don't know about you, but I do not want communism in the United States. So, if for some reason you decide that you want a communist, socialistic, fascist, Marxist country, I know of 3 of them right now, 4 of them actually. Mexico, North Korea, Russia, or China. Bye. I'll help you pack. Have a nice trip. So I'm not going to put up with anybody that wants to tear down America. I'm not going to put up with these radical jihadist Muslims that want to instill and implement Sharia law. I got 9 little buddies that will make them understand that their Sharia law is bullcrap. Okay? By the way, it is also known, and it is on record, that the Islamic faith, quote unquote, is a bogus religion. Go look it up. I mean, there's many, aside from the Christian view and the Christian understanding and research, go look it up. You can say that about Christianity or Catholicism or whatever. Let me scroll on down here, and after the top of the hour break, actually, no, I'll get into it now because it's really, really short. And it goes back to the Constitution and the rights that we have and the rights that are protected. This is from offthegridnews.com. Why every gun control law is unconstitutional. This is from Byron Berger. The social divide over the Second Amendment rages over the country, much like the wildfires tear through the forests of the Southwest. Fed by school shootings and liberal lies, it's difficult to rationally answer the question of whether restrictions should be placed on gun owners. So let's start from the beginning. The Second Amendment of the greatest government document in the world's history, the United States Constitution, states, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Unquote. What's interesting about this language is that it states that the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. The Founding Fathers placed a bright line prohibition on infringement of the right. They knew the difference between an outright prohibition and the providing of the federal government the ability to place reasonable restrictions on a right. For example, the Fourth Amendment prohibits unreasonable search and seizure. Until 2010, the significant weakness of the Second Amendment was that in some minds, it did not apply to state and local governments. These governments were free to make any regulations their state Supreme Court held acceptable under the state constitutions. That's why states like New York and California could virtually ban their citizens from bearing arms. But it all changed in 2010 when the United States Supreme Court decided McDonnell versus Chicago. This case held that the Second Amendment was, quote-unquote, incorporated. This legal term means that the states and the local governments now must follow the limitations of the federal Constitution's Second Amendment, and that state laws cannot be more restrictive than those allowed by the Second Amendment. If you haven't heard about McDonald versus Chicago, don't chastise yourself. First, the liberal media ignored it because it did not fit into their narrative for ever more restrictive gun laws. Second, just because the Supreme Court held that the Second Amendment was incorporated does not mean that all state and local gun laws violate the amendment are removed from the criminal codes. Absent volunteer removal from the state and local criminal codes, the laws remain in effect until each individual law is challenged in court. This means that a person has to break the law, begin to suffer the consequences, and then have the patience and resources to challenge the law in court. Remember, during this time, the person will be a convicted felon in prison, possibly with a destroyed career and absence of family. The writer here says, I'm not exaggerating. In the mid-20th century, when the Supreme Court finally held that school segregation was unconstitutional, an unpopular decision to many at the time, schools did not magically desegregate. It took 50 years of litigation in federal courts to slowly desegregate schools through court judgments and federal receiverships of schools. Federal receiverships of schools. Go look that up. So the battle to remove unconstitutional gun control laws is just beginning. The only difference is that now each one will have to receive scrutiny under federal constitutional law, not just state constitutional law. And unfortunately, even though the federal Second Amendment is sometimes less restrictive than some state laws, like New York and California, the Supreme Court has no problems with the federal government infringing on the right to bear arms. Contrary to plain language, it has adopted a reasonableness standard for regulations. To summarize, the writer here says, my opinion is that no government entity has the right to infringe on possession of firearms. Nevertheless, our Supreme Court has decided otherwise. So, removing the discussion from basic constitutional law to public policy in light of the Supreme Court's view, let's discuss a few limitations on firearms that make sense. There you go. And that is on Free America Radio on Facebook. You can check it out. It's from offthegridnews.com. I often ask myself, where did these laws come from? That leads me to this question. Why are people so politically correct? I can tell you. First of all, the laws came from man. They didn't come from God. They came from man. God's law says I have a right to protect myself no matter what. I have a right to speak my mind no matter what. I have a right to assemble peaceably with others no matter what. I have a right to worship in whatever church, in whatever form of religion my conscience deems is necessary for me no matter what. That is a God-given right. My federal government has no right to take that away from me. Our founding fathers dictated and wrote that Constitution and Bill of Rights with that in mind. So regardless of what you think, regardless of you're sitting there pointing your finger at the computer screen or yelling at the computer screen telling me that I'm wrong, I have to say, go look in the mirror. You are wrong. So there you go. At the end of the year last year, I decided that I wasn't going to pull any punches, that I was going to tell it like it is, and if people didn't like it, they didn't have to listen. I got more listeners now than ever before. So I don't want to hear anybody disagree with me unless they have proof that I've either overlooked something or I am completely wrong. Because the first person you got to prove anything to is yourself. So I don't want to hear it anymore. Email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com. freeamericaradio@usa.com. You got questions, comments, concerns, even if you disagree with me, please email me. Go to freeamericaradio.us for more information. You can sponsor the show if you like it. You can donate if you like it. You can get your emergency food supply there. And thank you for your support. I'll be right back.
This is the Liberty Beat, your daily source for Liberty news and activist updates, online at thelibertybeat.com. I'm Brian Hagan with your Liberty Beat for Monday, October 27th, 2014. Gold is trading around $1,233, silver $17.24, and Bitcoin is trading around $350.30. Today's Bitcoin price brought to you by Express Coin, the fastest and most reliable way to buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin today at expresscoin.com. Support for Liberty Beat comes from Central Texas Gunworks, your online source for firearms, firearm accessories, and ammunition. They take major credit cards and now accept Bitcoin. Visit them online, shop.centraltexasgunworks.com. In the news, on Friday, a U.S. drone strike was reported to have killed 3 suspected members of a local branch of al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula in Yemen. Reuters reported that tribal sources confirmed the deaths were members of the al-Qaeda group currently fighting the Shiite Muslim Houthi group. However, Press TV reported that tribal sources stated that up to 20 people may have died. Drone strikes in Yemen have been a controversial topic since Human Rights Watch released a report detailing the deaths of Yemeni civilians at the hands of the United States government. The killings are being done in violation of international law. The FBI has released 2 updated reports from the Office of the Inspector General concerning the FBI's use of the controversial national security letters. The reports were released to the New York Times through a FOIA request. The updated documents were originally from 2007 and 2008 and have now been reissued with newly declassified information. NSLs are orders that give the FBI authority to gather data from companies without judicial approval. They are typically issued with a gag order, preventing the recipients from speaking about the request. The Electronic Frontier Foundation said the excessive classification and redaction continue to prevent new information from being released. A new policy study published in the journal JAMA Pediatrics proposes a mandatory criminal background check for every firearm sale as a way to protect the children. The report examined the federal policies in the United States related to children's health and health care. The researchers found that child poverty in America is at its highest point in 20 years and say that 5 children die daily from firearms. They offered 10 steps for the federal government to help children, including a background check for gun sales. Support for Liberty Beat comes from Marjorie Wildcraft's Grow Your Own Groceries. Homegrown food on every table. That's growyourowngroceries.org. And support comes from Midas Resources Incorporated, helping clients convert their paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver. Get their 10 Reasons book free by calling 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237. This is the Liberty Beat for Monday, October 27th, 2014. Check out the website at thelibertybeat.com and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/thelibertybeat. The Thin Blue Line, the unwritten police compact which holds that officers should get each other's back no matter the circumstance, has been crossed. This is a Liberty Beat special report. On day 2 of the Antonio Beeler trial, which wrapped up late Friday afternoon, Austin, Texas police officer Jermaine Hopkins testified on behalf of Beeler's defense regarding the ins and outs of reasonable suspicion. Hopkins has a history of going against the grain at APD. During his testimony, it was revealed that he is currently on administrative leave for taking a complaint of discrimination outside of the chain of command. For bringing forward the complaint, Hopkins stated APD retaliated against him, withholding his overtime pay. The Department of Labor has ruled against APD's decision. However, Hopkins' testimony on behalf of Beeler means more than overtime pay. Asked by the defense if he has faced retaliation for agreeing to testify, Hopkins told the court he would no longer have a job as of October 30th, with his supervisor informing him of his termination after learning of his subpoena to testify. Beeler is being tried for the Class C misdemeanor failure to obey the order of an officer, in association with his infamous New Year's Day 2012 arrest, where he filmed Officers Oborski and Snyder violently ripping a young woman from the passenger side of the car in Austin, Texas. Day 3 of the trial takes place today. Beeler's attorney, Millie Thompson, is hoping to convince the jury that the order given to Beeler to put his hands behind his back was not a lawful order, as Officer Oborski had no reasonable suspicion to detain him in the first place. Support for Liberty Beat comes from Sovereign Living, a podcast, blog, and reality show about what it takes to live a voluntary and natural life. Check out the blog at sovereignliving.com and watch episode 1 of the soon-to-be-released reality show at sovereignliving.tv. This is the Liberty Beat for Monday, October 27th, 2014. I'm Brian Hagan reporting, reminding you, spread liberty with a smile.
This is the 27th of October, 2014. I am your host, Reverend Wayne S. Pierce. This is the Free America Radio Network, and this is the Views Expressed Live. How are you today? You doing good? Hope so. Go to freeamericaradio.us, donate if you want, sponsor the show if you wish, or get your emergency food supply right there. Yes, it'll help you out, it will help you out, and it will help out Free America Radio Network. We're going to the next level, and you can be a part of that, so please support us in our endeavor. Anyway, go to Free America Radio on Facebook, Free America Radio on Facebook, from offthegridnews.com. As soon as the page comes up here, it's either the browser or this stupid internet that we have. So, I don't know. Yeah, offthegridnews.com. Daniel Jennings wrote this article. Like it or not, Comcast is turning your home into a public Wi-Fi hotspot. First of all, have you driven down the road or walked down the road and just been able to get a really good signal on your phone, on your Wi-Fi? Yeah, this is probably why. Here, let me read this to you. It's on Free America Radio on Facebook if you'd like to follow along. The latest upgrade, that's in quotes, to Comcast Xfinity, or Xfinity, I think it is, internet service, will make tens of thousands of households vulnerable to hackers and other security threats, some experts say. How? The cable company plans to convert thousands of customers' modems into Wi-Fi hotspots. That means anybody with a Wi-Fi device could log into the internet and possibly hack into your computer once the quote-unquote hotspot is activated. To make matters worse, Comcast is not asking customers whether they want their modem to become a hotspot or not. Instead, it is simply switching the service on, according to Houston Chronicle writer Dwight Silverman. Customers must opt out. Comcast wants to increase business at subscribers' expense. Comcast is making this move in an attempt to bolster its bottom line. The Washington Post reported that the company hopes to be able to sell cellular phone and other services through those hotspots. It even admitted so in a filing with the Federal Communications Commission. Quote, a ubiquitous Wi-Fi network built by Comcast could make a Wi-Fi first service which combines commercial mobile radio service with Wi-Fi, a more viable alternative, unquote, the filing stated. Anybody who has a Comcast login number will be able to access the internet via the home Wi-Fi hotspot, Silverman reported. That means any Comcast customer could use your system if the Wi-Fi is turned on. Comcast says the system is secure and that homeowners would not be responsible for the used bandwidth. Others, though, aren't buying into the security promise. How it threatens your security. Comcast's forced Wi-Fi could make households vulnerable to a classic hacking technique called war driving. A war driver is a hacker with a wireless device who wanders around looking for a Wi-Fi connection. He or she then logs in on and uses that connection for nefarious purposes. A hacker could use the Wi-Fi hotspot for criminal purposes, say to run a scam or steal data from a corporate or government computer network, or even to look at child porn Would police raid an innocent person's home? Comcast says the system is set up to protect a homeowner, but the thought of a home router being used for illegal purposes likely will make many homeowners nervous. How to turn Comcast Wi-Fi hotspot off. Comcast isn't giving customers a choice on the front end whether they want to be hotspots or not, but it is giving the opportunity to switch the feature off. And it shows how to do that. Other cable providers could follow Comcast's lead. It isn't clear if other cable companies are planning to follow Comcast's lead. Some analysts think that they might be. Quote, when a company like Comcast starts doing something like this, there's always ripples, unquote. Harold Feld of the consumer group Public Knowledge told the Washington Post, quote, they talk to equipment manufacturers and contractors that sell cellular services. They do stuff that at least makes it look plausible, that are preparatory, unquote. Quote, the cable guys, they're pretty much in the unison in joining forces on Wi-Fi, unquote. Independent analysis Jeff Silva told the Post. Silva believes a group of cable companies, including Cox and Time Warner Cable, plan to join Comcast's pool of Wi-Fi routers. So basically what it is that you're a hotspot. You got a wireless router at home. You know, you're sitting at home, you can get on the internet on your cell phone, you got a Wi-Fi there. It's right there in the router. Somebody can be walking by and get on your network. You'll know this because it'll go really, really slow on your cell phone. Speaking of cell phones, I got mine right next to me. The volume's down because it rang earlier. And my only question concerning the Wi-Fi hotspots is the one that people probably have asked already. What about hackers? It wouldn't take a freaking minute for a hacker to pull up outside your house or in your neighborhood where you know other people have Wi-Fi. Tap into one of your guys' Wi-Fi and use it to do whatever. Well, it wouldn't take them long. Okay. So that is the only question I have. If you see undesirables, if you see some suspicious activity out in front of your house, what do you do? That's a good question. I mean, what do you do? Going on to Free America Radio on Facebook. From WashingtonTimes.com. As soon as the page comes up. From WashingtonTimes.com. I got to find the author's name here because I want to make sure I give them credit or the person credit or if there's more than one. Here it is, WashingtonTimes.com. U.S. allies scramble jets almost daily to repel Russian incursions. Moscow military provocations signal return to Cold War era gamesmanship. Guy Taylor and Maggie Ibarra wrote this back 4 days ago. I think I probably read this, as a matter of fact, now that I'm thinking about it. Russian military provocations have increased so much over the 7 months since Moscow annexed Crimea from Ukraine that Washington and its allies are scrambling defense assets on a nearly daily basis in response to air, sea, and land incursions by Vladimir Putin's forces. Yeah, I remember reading this. Let me highlight some of the things here. Quote, what's going on is a radical escalation of aggression Russian what's going on is a radical escalation of aggressive Russian muscle flexing and posturing designed to demonstrate that Russia is no longer a defeated power of the Cold War, unquote, says Ariel Cohn, who heads the Center for Energy, Natural Resources, and Geopolitics at the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security in Washington. We have a department like that, folks. Let me say that again. Center for Energy, Natural Resources, shouldn't that be in the Department of Interior? And Geopolitics at the Institute for the Analysis of Global Security in Washington. Quote, the more we retreat, the more we are encouraging Russia to behave in a more aggressive way, unquote, Cohen said. Quote, we need to be engaging more deeply with our Central Asian allies, but instead, we are in the process of abandoning turf to Russia, and it's wrong. It's against our interests geopolitically to let Russia feel that they all of a sudden have won all of the turf without firing a shot, unquote. So that's on Free America Radio. Let me put that back at the top because, like I said, I wouldn't mind meeting Vladimir Putin. I would ask him several questions, but I wouldn't mind meeting him. It's not that I'm going to go live in Russia. It's just, I wouldn't mind meeting him. I find it incredibly odd, and I'll put it this way. I find it incredibly odd, okay, that we have a system of government that doesn't really give a crap about you and I. There might be, 4 or 5 congressmen that care about you, but no. From GuerrillaMediaNetwork.com, Andrew Krieg, the secretive elite that guide our government's leaders. Andrew Krieg says, quote, the CIA not only lied, it actively subverted the investigation, says G. Robert Blakely, the former general counsel of the White House Select Committee on Assassinations, which issued its report in 1979. This is talking about the Warren report of the murder of JFK. Quote, it is time that either Congress or the Justice Department conducts a real investigation of the CIA, unquote, Blakely said at a conference last month. Quote, indeed, in my opinion, it's long past time, Blakely, unquote. Blakely urged the National Archives and Records Administration to comply promptly with a federal law unanimously passed by Congress in 1992 requiring release of the JFK records. Archives leadership refuses to release the documents until 2017 without CIA or presidential approval. The CIA has said it lacks the personnel to process the documents sooner in ways that protect national security. But at what point does refusal to cooperate with a murder investigation signify a broken system? This is also on Free America Radio on Facebook. Now, I'm just reading some of the headlines here. I want to make this perfectly clear. We have a system of government that is supposed to be within constitutional agreement to accommodate for the checks and balances that you and I, we the people, have. In other words, holding the government responsible and accountable for what they do against us, for us, with us, whatever. We have a system that does that, do we not? Or actually, no, we don't, but we should. My question is, or my statement is, one size does not fit all. So if somebody wants this government to be more open and to give us more stuff, that's freaking communism. Let me rephrase that. That is not communism. That's just being freaking lazy. Okay? Remember that woman who said that, in the 2008 presidential election when Obama was elected president, and that woman says, well, now we don't have to worry about our house payment. Now we don't have to worry about our car payment. If we take care of him, he'll take care of us, right? Remember that? Actually, I have that clip. And somebody caught up with her. And you know what she said? He lied. So even his own constituents know that he's lying. Even in his own political party, the Democrats in Congress know he's lying. And whistleblowers have come out and said the same thing. How about sending an email or snail mail off to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and telling him to get the hell out of office? Oh, there you go again. Ah. I know people are asking me, what do we replace this government with? What do we replace this with? I already told you in the first hour. Common sense and logic. If I were president, you know what I'd do? I'd tell all the military, I'm your commander-in-chief and I order you to get out of those countries and come on home. But if, no. We're going to leave a couple of battalions there to make sure that you people are safe. We're not going to engage anybody as far as, some country's civil war. That's just ridiculous. Those people can fight it out themselves, and that's just the way it is. And then if I was president, I'd tell all the countries that owe the United States some money, I'd be saying, you got 6 months. You got 6 months to give us the money back, or we're cutting you off. And if I was president, I'd look at Congress. I'd stand in Congress. I'd do two things. Stand in Congress and tell them, folks, you were put into this office by the people of your states. You better shut the hell up and do what they tell you to do, period. And anybody that is in any way connected to a corporation, whatever it is, I want your resignation on my desk in 72 hours. That's bottom line. That's just bottom line. And the other thing is I'd go to the UN, stand up there in the UN General Assembly and tell these countries, you got two choices. Two choices. You got a group of people in your countries that say they want peace, freedom, security, and liberty for the individual. But you, on the other hand, are saying no. I would stand in the UN General Assembly, look at every single one of those countries and say, you got that choice to either give it to them or not. And if you don't, we're cutting you off. And then I'd look at the Muslim countries and say, oh, by the way, we are not going to have any Muslims in this country, in the United States, trying to implement or subvert the laws of the United States and implement Sharia law. That ain't going to happen. And if you think that's going to happen, well, you better be prepared. And that's just the way it is. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, you can't do that. Look what happened to John F. Kennedy. He was going to take us off the Federal Reserve and put us back on the Treasury note. He was going to do all these things and change all sorts of dynamics that really were subverting the laws and the morale of the citizens of the United States at the time. In other words, all these things that were happening before he was president were really bringing us down. When John F. Kennedy became president, he said, look, here's what we're going to do. And the people that put him in the office, that bought that office for him, murdered him. Said, no, you're not going to do that. Oh, and by the way, I heard, I don't have validation on this yet, but I heard that all the evidence, all roads lead to Rome, all the evidence points back to LBJ. So I don't know. I don't have any evidence on that. I'm just saying, it's speculation. Okay? So take that however you want. But we have a government that is just completely out of control. The EPA, the DEA, the ATF, all of them. The Justice Department, the State Department, they're all out of control. So the facts are the facts. And basically, we the people have to stand up and say enough's enough. And if we don't, then you don't have a right to say anything when the world around you in this country collapses. You don't have one thing to say because you allowed it to happen. JudicialWatch.org, Valerie Jarrett, key player in Fast and Furious cover-up after Holder lied to Congress. I don't think I got to this one in the last broadcast. Now, I know some of you are going to say, I have a right to say anything. Whatever I want, that's my right. Really? So I have a right to come into your house, tell you that here's a new law for the neighborhood, and here's a new policy and a regulation from the neighborhood because you're in a homeowners association. You've got to do this, 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 and this. And oh, by the way, there's a curfew at 7 p.m. Don't be outside. Do you think for 1 minute that's going to go over really well with you? This is what the government's doing to you. This is what Washington, D.C. is doing to you. They're telling you what to do, when to do it, why to do it, and how. And they're basically telling you if you don't comply, we're going to SWAT team you. Okay? I use that phrase, but they probably won't. They'll just have you arrested or something. Yeah, the website isn't coming up. Go to Free America Radio on Facebook. Scroll on down. You'll see Valerie Jarrett, key player in Fast and Furious cover-up after Holder lied to Congress. And he gets executive privilege. So does his wife. Isn't that lovely? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know anymore, folks. This is just getting out of hand. This is really, really getting out of hand. And like I said, in the first hour, we go out every weekend or, when we're out. And I don't see people protesting in the streets. We go downtown here in Reno, Nevada. I don't see people protesting. And if they do, it's for a short amount of time, then you never see them again. I mean, you might see them one day for several hours and then never again do you see them. We need protests like they had in Greece, like they have right now in Hungary, in Budapest. Right now, we need hundreds of thousands of people out in the street saying, we've had enough. If 10,000 people got in the street, your city doesn't have enough police officers to keep it from getting out of hand. That's why you don't let it get out of hand. If somebody is starting to get a little wild and you don't like it, you just call the officer over and say, he's an agent provocateur. Take him back to your place because he's one of yours. Yeah, That's who's going to be out there, folks. Free America Radio at USA.com. Free America Radio at USA.com. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, and even if you disagree with me, show me why. Free America Radio at USA.com. Go to freeamericaradio.us. If you want to sponsor the show, I'm not going to break your advertising budget, so consider supporting Free America Radio Network. You can donate, and you can also get emergency food supply today. It'll help your family out and help out Free America Radio Network all at the same time. I'll return right after this.
October 29th, 30th, and 31st from Eastland Radio, Repertory Theater, and New West Theater, a Halloween special. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Eastland Radio Repertory Theater presents a Halloween special just for you. You can also go to eastlandradiotheater.weebly.com.
With her unique, fast-paced, witty sarcasm, Angel Clark brings you the news of the day with a creative twist. Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern on RadioFreedom.us. You can also listen to her live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Lock it on to the best station on the net.
The Free America Radio Network. Are you a filmmaker and want to make your epic feature film with no money, some money, and or all the money in the world? Listen to Christopher J. Taylor as he discusses everything you need to know about filmmaking and more on Film 101 on HTLA973.com. Folks, here I am. I'm back. A little delay there, but I'm back. I don't know. I don't know, folks. Hey, if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. It's that simple. The freedomoutpost.com, excuse me, Tim Brown wrote this. I may have mentioned this on last week's show, but this goes with everything I've talked about today. Tim Brown writes, Christian school forced to have Islamicists lead assembly or be closed. Let me say that again. Christian school forced to have Islamist lead assembly or be closed. Thank you, Tim Brown. Posted the 22nd of October, 5 days ago. Well, America, all you have to do is to see what Islam is going to be attempting in America. And have attempted and gotten in America. Let me read that again, because I've read this before, and there's two things I'm going to point out in this first paragraph. Well, America, all you have to do to see what Islam is going to be attempting in America and have attempted and gotten in America is to look across the pond to the United Kingdom. In the United Kingdom, this is the first point, there's a huge population of Muslims that are forcing people to go by what they want. Okay? Continuing, in the UK, they have appeased, the Muslims and have kowtowed to them now to the point where a British Christian school is being threatened with closure if they do not allow a Muslim imam to lead their assemblies. The London Telegraph reports, quote, a successful Christian school has been warned it is to be downgraded by inspectors and could even face closure after failing to invite a leader from another religion, such as an imam, to lead assemblies, it is claimed. The small independent school in the home counties, was told it is in a breach of new rules intended to promote, quote unquote, British values, such as individual liberty and tolerance in the wake of the Trojan horse scandal involving infiltration by hardline Muslim groups in Birmingham. See? Told you. Details of the case are disclosed in a letter to the Education Secretary, Nikki Morgan, from the Christian Institute, which is providing legal support to the school. The group warned that the new rules intended to combat extremism are already having, quote-unquote, disturbing consequences for religious schools and forcing Ofsted inspectors to act in a way which undermines their ethos. I will place this back at the top of the Free America Radio Facebook page. And it's important to understand, people, this is coming here. It already is here. It is being implemented as we speak. Regardless of what you want to believe, regardless of whether or not you think that I'm, conspiracy theorist or whatever, the facts are the facts, and you need to look at them, and you need to examine them, and you need to ask yourself those very, very difficult questions that you never want to ask yourself. It's going to come down to this. Okay? It's going to come down to this. You're either going to defend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States prior to 1871, and you're going to continue to help restore this nation from the piece of trash tyranny that it is, by any means necessary. Or you can have Muslims in your neighborhood tell you or your wife that they can't come out of the house, that you cannot come out of the house to do anything when they're around. Now I know. That's extreme. You're a fearmonger. No, I'm not. I'm a realist. There are good Muslims. I know them. I grew up in Stockton, California, where there is one community which has the largest Muslim population in that community for that size of a city. And I know that some of them will give their shirt off their back if you need it. And they'll help you out. But there's these groups of people called Islamic jihadists. They abhor the way you look. They hate Western civilization. They want their women to be dressed in black, and the only thing that you see is their eyes, period. That is suppression on women and freedom of expression. And they want you to kowtow to their Sharia law. Or they'll kill you. Sounds like a bunch of Christians I know back in the 1600s. Now, I know that what I'm about to say is not only going to piss off some people, but it's probably going to get me a lot of email at freeamericaradio@usa.com. So here it is, and I'll try to be as nice and as cordial and as courteous as I possibly can, because I don't want to sound like a raving maniac. If you have the opportunity to secure your position to benefit your family, your neighborhood, your friends, your county or your city or your state, if you have that opportunity, you are obligated, and it is your duty to do so. But if all you're going to do is sit around and bitch, moan, and groan about somebody else's patriotism, you can pack your bags and go to Mexico, North Korea, China, or Russia. Oh, and by the way, I'll help you pack. Bye. Have a nice trip. Now, I've had people tell me that people like that have a right to say whatever they want because we have the freedom of speech. Well, at least somebody read their history book. And even if we don't agree with them, they still have that right. Okay, I'll give you that. But when that right crosses that line, and here's what I want to say that's probably going to get me a whole bunch of email. When that right you have crosses that line where you're telling me that I have to be a certain way, believe a certain way, worship God in a certain way, not watch certain programs, eat certain foods, yada, yada, yada. When your religion crosses that line into dictating to me how I am to live, or even your freedom of speech, regardless of religious affiliation, crosses that line and tells me that I have to do this and thus and such, then it is my obligation and duty to throw off the tyranny that is currently in this nation. And when I search out those people, and I will search them out and find them, that have so adamantly and emphatically demanded that I change the way that I believe, I'll make sure they are so far down at the bottom of the ocean, no one's ever going to find them. Because I'll tell you right now, the Islamic jihadists that want Sharia law at the point of a sword, I guarantee you, I'm gonna take you to hell. And if you don't know how to get there, I'll sacrifice my own life to see you burn for eternity. Now, a lot of people might think that that's the wrong idea, that we should have toleration for anybody else that has a different religion than we do. Well, let me applaud you for that, because that's a very good insight. But let me ask you this. Somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, Bob. Hey, Jim. Hey, Richard," whatever your name is. "I know you go to church and you understand your thing your way, and that's fine. That's very understandable. I totally, okay, I'm fine with that. But, I think to not really offend anybody and really to not really stir the pot or rock the boat I think you should start believing our way." What would you do? What would you do? Let's just say in that scenario, you would say, "No, I have my own beliefs. I'll believe what I want. And that's just the way it is." Well, let's say in that scenario, you said that. Okay? All right? Well, let's say the person talking to you, could be a friend, could be a colleague, who knows, would say, "Well, I really want to encourage you to do this, because if you don't, I don't think anybody's going to want to help you at all with anything. I understand you need your house painted and you were looking for people to help. I don't think they're going to help you if you don't believe our way." Okay, let's continue on to the extreme of that scenario and say this. You, as the homeowner, would look at that person talking to you and say, "Get the hell out of my house." And then the other person would probably say, "Oh, let's calm down now. We don't need this." Then, of course, back and forth you go with that type of conversation and that type of scenario, when out on the lawn you look at that guy and tell him, "Get the hell off of my property." Okay, so that scenario at that point is finished according to the homeowner. Are we on the same page? All of a sudden you notice that your mailbox is tore up, your lawn is tore up, your car tires are slashed, all this, and you realize these people were serious. My question to you, in defense of the freedom, peace, security, and liberty of this nation and your property and your family, and to protect your family and your property, what would you do? It's a very simple question. The answers vary from different perspectives. I understand this. But if someone came to me and told me, or let me, and I see this in other countries, so let me use that as an example, and I see this, where the Muslims go, the radical jihadist Muslims go and burn up churches, kill Christians, do this. You've seen this. Is that propaganda, or is that our own CIA operatives doing the work of the New World Order? I would take that more than anything else, but you see this happening. If you started seeing that in your neighborhood, where hordes of these people would come in and start tearing up churches and tearing up all this. And if you go there, or your group of your people in your neighborhood go there, try to protect the church, and these people were fighting you and all that, what would you do? What would you do in that type of scenario? I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm not saying it's. I'm not predicting anything. But I'm telling you straight up, and you better listen to this, that if you don't have the balls to stand up to these people and take care of situations the way that you know how, your wife's going to be in a burqa. Your husband is probably going to be dead because they're going to kill him because he didn't convert. Your kids are going to be separated and taken to these schools and indoctrinated with their bullcrap religion. This is the line that I said was there. They've crossed that line. What are you going to do? It's entirely up to you, but what are you going to do? Now, let me put all that on the table. And let me say this. Number one, I'm not predicting anything. I know this probably wouldn't happen. Those scenarios I mentioned probably would never happen in the U.S. due to the fact that, nobody will allow that to happen. We have over 200, what is it now, minus children, we have like 200 million adults here. Oh, I'm sure that would not happen in the U.S., okay? Number two, I'm not saying that it's a retaliation against anybody who demands that I change religions. It's a realistic defense against dictatorships, or as it is technically known as theocracy, okay? Okay, there's that to look at. Number three is very simple. I'm not calling for a coup or an aggressive motion against anybody that disagrees with me. What I'm saying is, these people who call themselves radical Islamic jihadists are out to kill you, and you need to understand that you need to protect yourself, period. This is the way it is. I believe that in North Korea right now with Kim Jong-un, his people are looking at the South Koreans wondering when they're going to cross that line and come over and try to kill them. Because that's what they were taught. That's what they were told. Are the South Koreans going to go over there? Oh, there's been some skirmishes on the border. But not enough to really, make any difference. But think about that, folks. I'm not calling for a coup of the United States. I'm calling for citizens to stand up for what they believe. For a U.S., for a United States that where people believe in peace, freedom, security, and liberty, where they understand the Constitution prior to 1871 and understand that defending your freedoms is the duty and obligation of every single law-abiding citizen of the United States. Now, whether you like that or not, well, that's entirely up to you. And somebody would probably argue with me and say, well, if somebody doesn't agree with you and seems to want you to change and all this and all that, why should, it's just their opinion. Why should they pack up and leave? Because they're idiots. You understand that? I'm making it as plain and simple as I possibly can. Well, you don't know what their circumstances are. You don't know what their life is like. You don't know. No, I don't. But when they come against me and my liberties and freedoms, they are now my enemy. And I will pack them up and I will ship them off to a country of their liking. Mexico, China, Russia, North Korea. Doesn't matter. Iraq if they want to go. Iran if they want to go there. Hell, I'll help them raise some money for them to go. You don't come to this country and demand that the citizens change for your ideology. Muslims, radical jihadist Muslims. And there are some, and I know moderate and conservative Muslims, so I exclude them out of that, but I'm talking to the radicals. Not only the Muslims, but the Christians as well, and the Jewish people as well, and the Catholics as well, and all the other ones. So if you want to come here to the United States, go to the consulate, go to the embassies, fill out the paperwork, do the right thing. I'll shake your hand at the border and we'll go have lunch. But if you jump over the border or come here in droves and demand that this country take care of you and spend my tax dollars putting you on the dole so you can sit on your butt and do nothing and take over when you have to, or whatever plans you have in your measly little limited mind, I'll pack your asses up and ship you back to your country of origin. Got it? And there's over 250 million adults, I'm assuming, that would do the same thing. You're going to come over with 20, 25, 30, 50 people or whatever in your little boat, in your little way of getting over here. We're going to have 400 or 500 people packing your asses up and moving you back. And don't think you can come into the Gulf of Mexico or to the, Gulf of California or come from, down south in Mexico and work your way up to the border, because we'll find you and we'll stop you. We'll close that damn border and you won't have a way to get over here. Oh, and by the way, we'll find those tunnels and we'll shut them up. We have been bruised and battered and bloodied throughout the 238 years that this country has been in existence. And guess what? We have come back like the phoenix. We are a resilient people, and we have rose above the adversity. Because number one, we got God. Number two, we have people who understand peace, freedom, liberty, and security in this nation. And number three, we have people who will stop at nothing to protect their families, their friends, their cities, counties, and states from the enemy that wants to kill us. And I suggest anybody that wants to come to this country, you better think twice, because we already know what you want. Remember, General Yamamoto said that he didn't want to invade America because there's a gun behind every blade of grass. And you radical jihadist, you better understand one very important thing. We know how to use them. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, what do you have? I mean, what I may go into overtime. I don't know. Some people may look at me and say, well, that's wrong. You can't say that. Well, I can say anything I want. Just like you have a right to say anything you want. Well, I'm going to get you and pack you up and send you out of this country. Hey, bring it on. I see the enemy, I know the enemy, and the enemy knows us. People of the United States, you know the enemy, and your obligation and duty is to throw off the tyranny of this government and replace it with people that can operate it of, by, and for the people. And if you can't do that, I am sure there's a country that would love to take your citizenship, like Russia, China, or Mexico, or North Korea. I'm going to go now, folks. Email me, freeamericaradio@usa.com, freeamericaradio@usa.com. Go to freeamericaradio.us. And if you disagree with me, please let me know, freeamericaradio@usa.com. I want to know. Put in the subject line, radio. And remember this, folks. I'm real. So are you. We the people have the power, for we are America.